Hello and welcome to this episode of Community Voices Uganda here on Civic Space TV. I am Phillip Muliisa. On this episode, we are having a conversation around the electoral processes and creating a linkage with constitutionalism, and very much so we all know that a series of electoral activities are underway in Uganda, including we've seen in the political parties, we've seen party primaries, we've seen elections in the structures of the parties themselves, we've seen delegates conferences in the different political parties, the National Resistance Movement, the Democratic Party, we've seen activity in the National Unity Platform and many other political parties. And now we have seen, of course, nomination of candidates up to the level of the presidency, which should be the highest political office of the land. And certainly that means we are headed for the final phase of campaigns, which should usher us into the voting day. And we are here to discuss how that now fits into the broader concept of constitutionalism in this country, which the minds here will help me unpack and help us understand why the two matter and indeed how much they should work together to make sure there is progress in this country. My name is Phillip Muliisa, and I will introduce to you my panel today so that we get on with the conversation. And I'll start with, I have Council Alobo Salome Joyce. Council is here to share his knowledge about this concept. Joyce, greetings, you are welcome. And how are you?
Thank you very much, Philip. Very well. I am okay. I'm in Patch District at the moment, and we are fine. We're doing very okay. Thank you for hosting the show.
Yes, good to have you, Joyce, and greetings to the people in Apache. I have Natasha Ahereza from the National Resistance Movement. Natasha, greetings and welcome to the conversation.
Yes, Philip, thank you so much for having me, and for the rest of the panelists, I'm so happy to be here, and I wish all of us a fruitful deliberations. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Natasha. I too have from the Uganda Law Society, I have Council Obadia Kamukama. Council, greetings and welcome to the conversation.
Well, thanks for hosting me, and I'm happy to be part of this panel.
Thank you so much. And last but not least is Council Tumusiime Kakuru. Council, greetings and you're very welcome to the conversation.
Greetings and thank you, Philip, for hosting me. And greetings, the panelists. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you so much, Council, and thank you all for joining us for this conversation. And here we are trying to make sense of first the electoral processes, but how they matter for the concept of constitutionalism in this country, Uganda, but also drawing examples from wherever across the region, the continent, and the world, and seeing how we can come out with best practice for the progress of our beautiful country, Uganda. And let me start with you, Council Kamukama. Look, we keep having a conversation around constitutionalism, and whenever it comes up, the word elections and the electoral processes keeps coming in. What is the connection between these two? And in any case, do you think one of them can thrive without another, especially in a country like Uganda?
Thank you, Phil. I think we need to understand what constitutionalism means. And in my view, constitutionalism means governance that is based on respect of the Constitution and rule of law. Under there, we have some key principles that need to be understood. Things like supremacy of the Constitution, separation of powers, protection of fundamental rights and freedoms, and accountability. Then we also need to understand what elections are. Elections are the bedrock of democratic governance. These elections provide people with a voice in choosing leaders that they can hold accountable. And electoral processes are essential in implementation of our constitution, the 1995 constitution. which upholds the principles of sovereignty, rule of law, and democratic participation. So in my view, since already we know that the constitution is our grand norm, it's the supreme law of the land. And all these are provided for under the constitution. So you cannot separate elections from the provisions of the law and the requirements, the rights of the people. Yeah, that's my take, and that's my opinion on that.
Yes, thank you so much, Obadiah. And you mentioned something that you cannot separate the two, especially, first of all, telling us that what we see being done in the electoral activities is actually laid out or in the Constitution and many other laws that go below that one. And Councillor Tumusiime, I want you to come in on that one. If these are laid out in the Constitution and actually we see them happening, for example, the elections are happening, we've seen activities already underway, and that should mean that actually Uganda is observing the Constitution and we are doing everything we are supposed to do. Am I right to say that Uganda is excelling on the concept of constitutionalism as a country? Yes, Councillor Tumusiime.
Well, thank you so much, Philip. I would not, I think, agree with you on that. Whereas Uganda seems to be participating as provided for, they are only doing the ideals of it, but the reality is totally different. Because I will give examples of these recent nominations from the LOC and mayor seats. At this moment, some people are not nominated and the nomination is closed. So they are having complaints at EC which are yet to be determined. For example, about 50 NUP members were not nominated for mayors and councillors and chairpersons. They have not had their complaints up to date, and the nominations have completed. So the other candidates are about to start campaigns when these are still complaining about the same, about their nomination. Look at the presidential candidates. People are complaining of how this verification of or people who support or seconded them from the districts
The
that did not
signatures from the
comply.
districts.
Yes, that the contestants did not comply. Unfortunately enough, we had 3 of the contestants. That is the NUP, Bobi Chaguranyi, the ANT, General Mugisha and Katumba, who had participated in the 2021 elections. They already knew what was required and the process that they went through during the 21 elections. Even with COVID, they were able to be engaged in the processes. But this time, they only notify them a day that your nominators are not eligible. I don't know using which means or what. And 2, the Electoral Commission under the Constitution as it is provided has, I think, failed its duty. Because one of its functions is to ensure that there are regular, free and fair elections. That is Article 61 of the Constitution. And the commission should be independent. But you have seen, because if you have said that my nominees are not correct, why can't you allow me access them? How did you verify? You have not explained to any of them. Up to now, these people are still making alarms. The other thing is about the involvement of military. You see, the sitting government now, or the sitting president, still remains running his country as he wants because he's a president guarded by our security forces, which is the opposite to the other candidates. Also, this time around, they are bringing in SFC, Special Forces Command, to be the one in charge of the security of the candidates. Why are they forcing them? And we have police which is mandated actually to protect us, because the duty of SFC is not to protect the citizens. No, it protects the board. I think the president or the board as if it is military or UPDF. All these are actually driving us into a worst election. One, it is not only following what is provided for, but also in reality, we should look at what an election should be. Is it an election where I'm threatened that either today or tomorrow my candidate or my supporter will be taken away and not known where is or how about? There are people, for example, now Sam Mugumya. I think they are to be nominated for members of parliament. But this is I think we are now in it is the 31st day since Sam Mugumya disappeared. Sam Mugumya has been trying to contest as an MP in Rukunjiri municipality. Up to now, the operative, the security operatives are telling us they are not aware of where he is. So he is likely not going to nominate and stand. I'm giving one example, but there are very many that have shown that really no, we are not in any way following or observing the constitutionality or this electoral process, but rather we are just showing off. It's a show. For example, if you go for a game and you know you have nothing to do, but you have to show, which is different from what other constitution observing countries are doing, because the constitution should be respected. The rights of the people in participation, in involvement, in activities and other things. I think we are yet to even see how they are going to regulate the campaigning modes. So to me, it is not
All right,
yet
and
clear.
Council, when I listen to you carefully, in fact, what you are saying is, whereas we have these processes going on, they are perhaps not to the standard set by the Constitution. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, actually, I think to me they are below the standard.
Thank you so much, Council, for that. And maybe before I get to you, Council Alobo, let me first listen to this politician here. And Natasha, and good you belong to the National Resistance Movement. You hear the matters Council Tumusiime here raises. People are abducted. He talks about the military in the elections and he says they are not supposed to be there. He talks about the verification of signatures and how unclear the process was. First of all, what interest do you politicians have in doing things in a manner that is not very clear, to the extent that even a legal practitioner like Council Tumusiime seems not to understand what's happening on ground? Why do you like doing things backdoor and quite in the dark?
Thank you so much, Philip, for the question, and to the rest of the panelists. I'm so happy to be part of this. So about the question, I think I will not speak from a political point of view, because either way, it's politicians are not the ones who are actually at the center of making majority of these decisions. They are not at the center of decision make, like they are not at the cooking point. Their role is to come participate into a process that sometimes do not have like control over, right? But I think I will speak at a point of like a participant point of view, not like a decision maker. So first of all, Philip, I've heard what Cass was elaborated, and I think just as any other processes, things like irregularities are things that are very unavoidable, and it is not something we can just sit down and take pleasure in, because in one way or the other it comes for everyone, right? Like these irregularities will in one way or the other and hurt someone, or stop them from participation because their expectations are not fully met. But I think one of the very many reasons is, as participants, I think I would like just give you an example of what happened in some
But you see,
elections
Natasha, and if you
Mm.
allow me respectfully, you keep trying to dress yourself in this cloth of being a participant. But we do understand that it is the people at the political level that give orders for things to happen in a certain direction. It is a politician that tells the police to deploy somewhere. Oftentimes, it is the politician who is in control of the military that Council Kakuru was talking about. It is even a politician that is in charge of appointing the chairperson of the Electoral Commission, who and his commissioners are responsible for screening and determining which signature is right and which one is wrong. So it is actually you, the politician. You can't dress yourself as a participant.
Thank you so much, Philip, for that. It was mainly why I was actually coming to my, point. I was going to say that as participants still, I think I would draw you back, is that we are given, do's and don'ts, laws and regulations here and there. But I think it needs a weaker system, people that are put in the system that are so easy to manipulate, that, these politicians that have, bigger monies, that have, a say here and there, that will come and be able to tamper with, these processes that have been put in place, right? So I think that in one way or the other takes us back to the kind of people, like the kind of integrity they hold in these particular positions. Is it the kind of integrity that, someone will stand on the institutional truth, the institutional mandate, to like uphold its laws, to make sure that here and there its laws or its objectives as the institution, let me say like the Electoral Commission, is fully upheld, and things like transparency and
Yes, Natasha, thank you for that for those thoughts, and I think you have some challenges, but thank you so much for that. And
hello.
yes, Natasha,
Can I continue or?
please proceed as you conclude on that point.
Okay. I surely apologize. So, Muliisa, my parting shots on this very particular question is not entirely that, politicians do have an upper hand in ensure in protecting their interests as people, but it comes down to like the people that are in these institutions, people that are in decision making institutions, to ensure that there are people that hold a high level of integrity and a high level of like high decision making power, that at the end of the day they can be interested in these positions, interested to like deliver the ultimate objectives as to why they are put in these positions, not having people in positions that are going to come and they're going to be manipulated with 2 or 3 things here and there, and they'll be able to sell off the institution, like let me say like electoral commissions and all of that. So it's not entirely that, because even when you like to say that maybe people in the ruling government have an upper hand or what, no, it is entirely on the people that are in the system. So to answer this question like in a broader perspective, is we need to like first make sure, like to cleanse, I would call it a cleansing mechanism on the institutions itself. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Natasha. She says cleansing the institutions, but she also mentions integrity. And Joyce, this brings me to you. You see, we speak of the institutions, and if it's the electoral commission, if it's the elections, we know it is the electoral commission that is so much involved in making sure everything is happening. First of all, do you think our current electoral commission, the way it is structured, the persons in there of the integrity Natasha is preaching, but two, in cases of failures, what are some of the remedies we have as a people of Uganda to see that we have actually these people be held accountable for their failures at delivering the service they're supposed to deliver, and two, making sure, for example, as we speak about elections, we have the exact structure of election, free, fair, credible, like we normally say. And of course, as we go into 2026, that we have that for our country, Uganda. Yes, Joyce.
First of all, that heads the electoral, the commission is appointed by a politician. There's politics is so much in the EC, which is supposed to be very independent and separated to ensure the elections are fair for everyone. We're still having complaints that from, let me use the presidential nominations that recently passed. We're still having complaints from people like, was it Castle Tumusiime saying, people said they brought their nominations, the requirements, the number of districts they were supposed to bring. But then they have been told what you brought is not enough, and they have not been given proper explanation as what they were supposed to do exactly and what was supposed to be done exactly. But now we're having a rough list of people that has already come out for people who have qualified, people who have presumably qualified as of now. I think the issue should, me, I still believe, as humans, it is very hard to be trusted. Let us involve machines to help us on this voting process. If you adopt technology and then you're like, fine, we're going to have, you can bring in your required documents, you put it in the computer and the system is okay, this is not right to have, this is not right to have, this is not the other. It gives you a detailed overview of what is happening. We can still have the people doing that, but give a detailed overview of why someone has qualified, how they have qualified in advance. If they have a complaint, I think we should first address that complaint before we come out with a final list. Let the people be first satisfied that, okay, fine, I didn't make it these grounds, or I made it these grounds, or I need to correct these areas before I can make it the next step. And then still on the separation of the Electoral Commission, which is, I think the Electoral Commission should try as much as possible to eliminate the involvement of the army in the electoral process. And try as much as possible to maintain peace, just majorly security within, but then also try not to involve the army in it. A lot of people are traumatized, they are scared when someone sees someone dressed in a military uniform at the polling station. There's already a bias that I came this side on Wednesday, but when you ask around, and they're like, they brought for us the military. Now, when they say you brought the military, someone says, Museveni's people here, they're dressed in military uniform to conduct the election. But the military generally is categorized, is associated to the ruling party at the moment. So I think the best is let's first remove its involvement in the electoral process. We can try as much as possible to use the police. Now, when they bring the special forces, what a situation, people are going to be more scared to go and vote, and that means they're not exercising their right to vote freely because they're already scared of the security. The security has been availed, but people are scared of that very security that has been availed. The Electoral Commission should be more transparent. We know they are transparent at the moment, but they should be more transparent with what is going on, with the rules that are there. Even when they're counting the votes, they should be more transparent about it. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Joyce, for that. And I want to come back to you, Councillor Kamukama, still. Look, we have had a series of elections in this country, whether you want to talk about the 1960 election that was ushering us into independence, and it gave us, of course, Prime Minister Benedicto Chiwanuka, or whether you want to talk about the 1980 election that brought us Obote II and sending President Museveni to the bush, or the 2006 election that was the first under the multi-party system, and now in 2026, where we are heading to look at the question of transition from the NRM or from President Museveni as an individual is so high on people's minds. I want to ask you, first of all, what lessons have we learned in terms of respecting constitutionalism is concerned from these elections? But two, how have they shaped our discipline in obedience to constitutionalism over the years and indeed as we head into another election? Yes, Nduga Obadia.
Thank you. I must say we have, over the years, we keep deviating from what the law provides for. Like Council Tumusiime said, there's a lot of irregularities in our elections, and it keeps worsening. Like each coming election, there's something new, there's militarization of elections. The Electoral Commission is supposed to be independent as per the law, as per the Constitution. However, we have the government, the current government making decisions. Like you said earlier, they're the ones appointing the head of the Electoral Commission. They're the ones sending the military. First of all, is supposed to be protecting borders, like Council Tumusiime said. Why is the military involved in the electoral process, campaigns? So there's a lot of irregularities in the entire process, and each coming election, things worsen. I can draw you back to the Kawempe elections for the MP. We saw what happened. Journalists are supposed to be free people to cover these elections, but they were being beaten, meaning there's a lot that is hidden, there's a lot that is being, because if elections are supposed to be fair for everyone to participate, why bring the military to intimidate the voters? So over the years, we have since noticed that things keep worsening. I don't know, I think the current government doesn't want to move, they want to hand over power.
But you see, Council, if you allow me, government
Yes,
usually gives a justification that they bring in the military because of the threats that are there, security threats, and they say because we live in a fragile region, you do not know what the terrorists are planning. You do not know what our enemies, for example, from the ADF, Al-Shabaab and the others are planning. And they say, because the electoral season brings together many people gathering in the same place, they have to make sure these are present. And often they say that because of the gatherings and the security being around, the opposition uses it as an opportunity now to provoke the security into action, which creates the mess we keep seeing. How would you respond to that justification usually from government?
I actually don't subscribe to that, because in any case, we have seen several recruitments of police, and as per the law, the police is mandated to protect the people. So the army that is supposed to be protecting the borders is brought at a point or at a time when elections are being conducted. How come we don't see these scenarios when elections are not there? Where there's a political situation is where the army comes in. Meaning there's not to sound sided on the opposition or NRM, but I think electoral processes are supposed to be fair, and people shouldn't be intimidated. The presence of the army in these electoral processes intimidates the voters. I know you've heard of people who are like, why should I vote? In any case, we know who's going to win. So people have even lost hope in the entire electoral process. So are we getting a leader that is voted by everyone at free will, or are we getting a leader that forces themselves on the people, on the voters? So there's a lot of irregularities that need to be handled in there.
Yes, thank you, Council Kamukama there, and irregularities to be handled. And perhaps Council Tumusiime, look, we see elections in the different countries both from our neighbors, but also even far away on the different continents. Perhaps what lessons can we pick from some of these other countries that could help us shape our electoral process, but to make sure we are compliant with the standards of the constitution that you spoke about earlier that require us to have, for example, a free and fair election, we have respect to human rights, accountability. What are some of the best practices we can borrow from wherever you have noticed that can be helpful for our country? Yes, Councillor Tumusiime.
Yeah, thank you, Philip, once again. But before we even look at the other countries that have participated well in the electoral processes, our constitution is clear on the independence of the commission, the electoral commission. That is Article 62. That the commission shall be independent and shall in performance of its functions not be subject to direct or control of any person or authority. When we look at what is happening now, even someone as young as, I don't know, 5 or 10 can see that really there is direct control from the authorities that have the power. But going forward, the independence of the Electoral Commission would be the best if all the participating candidates or political parties, as under the IPOD and other organizations, were involved, one, in appointing the commission. Because you cannot have 10 participants and one of them who has everything, power, authority, money, is the one in charge of appointing. So the commission lacks one, independence, because it fears if it decides against the appointing authority, they can be dismissed at any point. But
Also,
also,
if you allow me, again, just a second. You and I have listened several times to the current chairperson of the commission, Justice Simon Byabakama, and he says, yes, whereas he is appointed by the president, the sitting president, and of course all the other 6 commissioners, they operate independently of the state, and there is no one that gives them orders on what to do. So when we keep talking about that the fact that there is a hand from somewhere that influences the decisions at the commission, is that a provable fact, especially since you were a lawyer?
Yeah. For example, I'm one of the lawyers for NUP. We had requested that our candidate be nominated on Tuesday. And the Electoral Commission had initially confirmed our nomination on Tuesday. But from nowhere, we received a communication that our nomination has been postponed to Wednesday at 2, without any reasoning, because it is us who requested and the EC confirmed that the date was available for our nomination, but it failed. And you see the reason why. Because the incumbent was going to be nominated on Tuesday as well. So that one only speaks at the why. But you see, whereas the chairperson wants to defend himself so much, we see the realities. Because from the onset of how he's setting his, rules for the game, it is clear. He doesn't want processions, but we saw in Kororo everyone processing. I know processions from everywhere coming to the Kororo where the president was going to address a rally. And some people on Wednesday were arrested, including Honorable Sewanyana, as they were going to Natete, where their presidential candidate was going to conduct a rally. Even others have been arrested, yet not confirmed the real number, but some at least were even aired on the news and whatever. So you see, there is nothing like independence. And also, in the NRM primaries, there were a lot of violences. The members of parliament who have the flags, most of them committed a lot of criminals. The commission has not come out to even condemn the criminalities that were involved. And we are going for now the normal race for every candidate. So what are you expecting? For me, it looks at what is going to happen a lot of people are going to continue being killed or properties being destroyed because the Electoral Commission has failed its mandate of educating the citizens and also ensuring that the participation of candidates is at a leveled ground.
Yes, but please proceed, or if you have finished on that point.
Okay, yeah. Of course, other things that we need to do in these elections is giving freedom to all candidates. For example, in our neighborhood, Kenya, I will give that example. You see, every candidate, involved in the processes from the start. Because when you ignore the candidates from participating at the starting of the process, then you cannot expect them to even accept what you are going to deliver. I think that's why many of the people are even shining away from participating in these elections because they see no reason for why they should waste their time in this kind of setup. At least if we have agree we need an independent electoral commission, at least chosen by most of the political parties so that we can have some little trust. But with this kind of setup, I don't think we can expect much, even if it was copied from America or where, it would not be of any effect to us. And it is bad for us, by the way, as a country.
Yes, thank you, Council, for that, and you give us those examples. And Natasha, again, when you listen to some of these issues that keep emerging, perhaps it's a matter of the people that implement and the knowledge gaps as what should be happening, what is the best practice, and as opposed to what people just do out of their houses and in their comfort. And I want to really listen from you, especially when, as a leader of the youth in the NRM, do you think that your constituency has enough knowledge of what is required in the electoral season, their responsibilities, their duties, their rights, and how much do they know, and perhaps what can be done to ensure that they know the much they need so that they are able to participate reasonably and create an impact on the governance of our country? Yes, Natasha.
Thank you so much, Philip, for the question. And once again, I want to thank all of you who are still, holding on and having this good conversation. So, Philip, I think from a participant point of view, I think I will take you back to a participant point of view. I think much is not available and much is still supposed to be done because when we talk about much, it then means that even from like the starting point, even people that want to get to participate or have interest in, participating and having or holding these different leadership positions, first and foremost, most of them don't even know their duties and responsibilities at the moment that, they get to hold these positions. But also secondly, the fact that there is need for like a free and fair participation of people and their involvement still, it then requires them to like have a particular point of degree or percentage on their roles, their responsibilities, and their need to participate and ensure that they get to hold like a lot of these processes accountable, but also ensure that there is transparency in whatever that is going to happen. So first and foremost, I think, Philip, there is like a lot of need to ensure that there is continuous civic engagement. That means that it means you to get down, or people that are responsible to get down, have a lot of these processes taught to people, show them how it is their mandate to go and vote, show them how it is their mandate and their right to, hold a lot of these processes accountable, show them how it is, viable for them to like vote, not to, leave processes to like their owner. But also secondly, I feel like at a certain point of view, that like people that know what to do, but they choose not to do so. And these are like majority of people that have resorted to, violence, and they think if they go the violent way, things will work out in their favor, which in one way or the other has, made these things look so disorganized, has made people question the credibility of, a lot of these institutions that, at the end of the day, even at a point where, let me say 50% energy is put in to ensure that, these things are like so transparent, us people themselves, we like throw these energy and inputs down by ourselves. So on a lot of things that are supposed to be done, I think as citizens, as people, as people of this country, is that we need to first of all go back to the drawing board and get to know how, if we observe peace in the first place, things will work out in our favor. Like peace, like us being peaceful. You're supposed to, go and vote, line up, but you want to come cause havoc on the polling station. You want to come give money as, as a candidate, which clearly creates loopholes in, a lot of electoral processes. But also, secondly, I think the government still has a higher mandate and a long way to go to make sure that a lot of these things are brought down to like grassroots levels. People like are educated about their rights, their constitutional mandates to go and vote, their constitutional mandates to ask for like accountability from their leaders, to like question a lot of things. Like let these things be translated into local languages that people can like easily find, easy for them to access. But also secondly, the other thing is that as also institutions, I think there is supposed to like be a lot of as cleansing and having a lot of people in systems that will have a higher moral like mandate to ensure that these processes are still observed. So either way, it is a party thing from like institutions, then people, then laws. So everyone is supposed to play their part to ensure that we have free, fair elections in the country. Thank you.
Thank you, Natasha, for that. And Joyce, look, there is always a conversation about reforms, and they say we need these reforms so that we have a free and fair election. I want to hear from you, first of all, what nature of reforms do we be talking about? But two, if we get these reforms in the law and certainly they are available on paper, do we then have a guarantee that these will be implemented and therefore things will change for the better in this country? Yes, Joyce.
Thank you, Phillip. For the new reforms, let's first look at what we have on the ground, what we have on the paper right now, the laws that are supposed to be followed, that we have them on the paper. Are they being followed the dot? No. If they were being followed, the elections are going to be quite fair because they're really, the laws are really fair, they're good. They give people the right to vote, and also the Electoral Commission has guidelines on how to conduct the voting process and all that. I think we should first start with following what we have in the book so far diligently. Because right now what we have is not being followed to the dot. If it was, we would be in a better place than we are. We have human rights violations occurring year in, year out, and every other year that elections are taking place, these violations are worse than what happened in the previous elections. We have people being abducted, people being assaulted, others are being battered. Recently in the by-elections, even the innocent journalists were just covering the whole process and putting it out there to the people so that they get to see what is happening. They were being beaten. We should first stick to the laws that we have now and follow it diligently. Then look at the things that we have brought that is causing problems, like involvement of the army. Let's remove the army. We have a lot of the EC has been infiltrated by a lot of too much politics. Let us first separate it from the politics itself and let it be the Electoral Commission on its own, a very independent body without involvement of any political party in a shady way that would raise doubt to the other contestants. And then I think we should also adopt the use of when it comes to voting, let people vote. I know that is not very practicable, but it would be a better option if we adopted more of the e-elections. Then you first go, then you take up until now, especially for the LC ones and some of the councillors, we still have people lining up behind people. If we're supposed to be evolving and moving forward, we should adopt some better ways of voting that are discreet yet more transparent. Because when we have the MPs, the elections for the MPs and the president, you go, you take your separate ballot. Now, the issue comes in when it's time for counting and adding up the ballots from the votes from the different polling stations. People complain are like, no, we are only like 1,000 voters, but you see the votes are counted are beyond 1,000. When you add all of it together and you remove the invalid votes, we are over 1,000, yet we are only 1,000 voters registered. So you should look at all that and try to adopt some e-voting system where you know you have gone, you have voted, and the system automatically updates it. Then sometimes we have situations where probably network has gone off, there's no internet for like a certain period of time. All of that causes doubt in people's minds. It causes a lot of doubts. Why did the internet go off? What is happening? Okay, in the process of counting the votes, we lost track along the way because apparently maybe we did not have power, we did not have access to this. It would be better to adopt an e-voting system where the votes are counted automatically. Thank you very much.
All right, so thank you, Salome, for that. And colleagues, our time is really very much fast spent, but maybe by way of conclusion, because I see we have about 10 minutes to be out of here. What do you foresee in the forthcoming elections, and of course, linking it to the constitutionalism that we seek to see being upheld in our country? Do you think we are going to have at least the minimum standard of observance of the Constitution in the forthcoming election, and what should be closed quite in the short term so that we have a smooth flow of the electoral process? I will start with you, Obadia.
Yes, thank you. King Solomon once wrote in the book of Ecclesiastes and said, what has been will be. What has been done will be done again. So unless the Electoral Commission comes up and takes charge, we are likely to have a repeat of what has previously been happening. If the military is not removed from these elections, we are going to have a scenario where voters are not actually voting. All those who are voting because they are compelled to vote, not because they are voting at free will. Yeah, so I would personally just recommend that Electoral Commission takes charge of these elections and ensures transparency and accountability. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Badia Kamukama. The Electoral Commission takes charge and ensures transparency and accountability. Councillor Tumusiime Kakuru.
Well, thanks so much, Philip, once again, and the panelists. I think my view is that the EC should come up and take charge of this electoral process. The security organs should not be partisan as they are reflected as of today. The participation of citizens should not be limited to what they feel is good for them. I mean, in terms of support, either opposition or what, but we are all Ugandans. If we continue to have this kind of process, I see we are going to have many human rights violations around. I see people are going to die, properties are going to be, destroyed, and it is not good for a growing economy like ours. And a violation of our constitution is just the worst we can face of now. But we have a duty as citizens under Article 3 of the Constitution that if we feel this system is taking us away from our constitutional mandates, or is going away from the Constitution, we have a right to defend the Constitution and bring it back into force by whatever means. So if we don't see this, I think it will be upon us as citizens to act upon what we feel should be done to have our democracy grow. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much, Council Kakuru. And Natasha, you heard Council Kakuru is saying, regardless of Article 3 of the Constitution, the citizens have a duty to defend the Constitution and bring it into force by whatever means. And that doesn't, whereas it is Constitution, it doesn't sound like something that the National Resistance Movement would want to rely on. So what sort of election is the NRM going to deliver this time round? And should we be excited about what's happening? Natasha, if you can hear me.
Thank you so much, Philip. First and foremost, I want to as well thank all of you. But I think I would say there is a lot of confusion when people call the NRM the government, which is sometimes not so good in one or the other. But since you've asked the question, I think since it is still the ruling government, the ruling party, I think first and foremost, it is not in its interest to organize things that are going to discredit them, because I think in one way or the other, any political party in this world looks at things that do give them credibility and mileage. So if you've asked that question, I think it is self-befitting if I say it as the ruling party. If you've asked, it looks at organizing an election that is free and fair, that observes the mandate, because participation, respects human rights, unless otherwise.
Oh,
But yes.
please proceed and conclude.
Yes, but I think if either way, as participants, people like citizens, if we get to play our role in these processes and the government plays its role, I think we shall have, the best elections always. If we get to observe that it is so important as people to, respect ourselves, respect security personnel, because we've seen it. People provoke security personnel, right? And this is not something that we can debate about. We've seen it as political participants. They come with guns at polling stations to come and beat everyone. Should we say that the government is also fueling those people? So I think it is, if we are to ensure that we have peaceful elections, everyone is supposed to play their part. But I feel like, or I think, or it's actually a justification or a guarantee that we are going to have good elections, free, fair, with the observation of human rights, participation of everyone, and inclusion. Yes, Philip.
All right, thank you so much, Natasha, for that. And Council Alobo, your final remark on this.
My final remark is, one, let the EC take back its position and start acting without the involvement of political parties and the army. Two, as citizens, we should also behave ourselves, know our rights and how to exercise it accordingly without infringing the rights of others or without calling for unnecessary pressure from and causing a lot of tension that would need the army to be involved to calm the situation down. We should exercise during this voting period. We should all be talk to the people. The IC should talk to the people. They be more calm in the voting process, be more transparent when, you know, in counting of the votes. And thank you very much for the show. It has been a pleasure. Thank you, fellow panelists, for the great show. Thank you.
Well, I can't put it any better than the panel I've had today discussing the electoral process, but also linking it to constitutionalism and how it is being shaped in this country. Council Alobo, Salome, Joyce, thank you so much for your time and for the thoughts you've shared with us today. Ms. Ahereza Natasha, thank you so much for your thoughts and for your time on the conversation today. Council Obadia Kamukama, thank you so much for your thoughts and for the time you've had for us today, and indeed Council Tumusiime Kakuru, thank you so much for your thoughts and for the time you've had for us on this conversation. Special thanks to you, our viewers. Thank you for keeping it Civic Space TV, and special thanks to the technical team. Special thanks to the Center for Constitutional Governance and all the partners we work with to make sure we deliver this service to the country. Thank you for tuning in, and let me say good evening, and may you all have freedom always.